matters. This and every Thursday on Praise 87.9 FM.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning. It's Right Start on a Thursday morning, starting your day with a smile. This morning, we have Sophia Hamilton. Good morning, Sophia.
Good morning, Dwayne. Do you see my smile? Starting
Yes.
the day with a smile.
Yes, yes, yes. I see your smile, and I'm sure that those who are on our YouTube channel see your smile as well.
Okay, wonderful.
Um,
And I hope they're mirroring my smile.
yes, yes. Last week, well, we continued with grief in the family.
Right.
This week we're zeroing in on supporting grieving children.
Yes.
And for the most part, persons who hear the word grief immediately think about death.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not just death, right? Death is
Right.
not the worst thing that could happen to you, know. I heard my grandfather said once, death is not the worst thing that could happen to you. There are things worse than death that could happen to you.
Yes. So let's set the platform by talking about, reminding our listeners what we're talking about when we
Yes.
say grief. So
Yes.
grief is an emotional, mental, and sometimes physical response to a significant loss.
Mm-hmm.
Most commonly associated with the death of loved ones, right?
Yes, yes.
But grief can also be triggered by any form of loss.
Mhm.
Loss of a job, loss of a relationship,
Mhm.
whether it's marriage or platonic,
Mhm.
and loss of a dream.
Yes,
Because you had a
yes.
goal and
Yes,
it didn't
yes,
materialize.
yes,
That
yes.
can be painful.
And set and hold you back for years, you know.
Yes.
Yes.
You can get stuck.
Yes.
And so it's the process of mourning that loss, adjusting and finding meaning after the loss. And so this morning, why is it important for us to spend this time talking about it?
It's necessary. It's very necessary because based on what I learned as from you guys, I'm learning to be a psychologist, right?
Yes, good.
Based on what I learned from you guys is that when you don't address these things at whatever age, they manifest themselves in other things later on in life.
Right.
Sometimes in bad habits.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because of the brain-body connection.
Yes.
So whatever affects the mind can manifest in the body if not treated. So you're quite right. I give you come to the front of the class.
My own this is how I put it down
Okay.
in my mental notebook. Untreated grief stores toxin in your body.
Yes. Yes. And there's a book that talks about that, how, I can't remember the exact name of it, but it speaks to how unresolved challenges, mental health challenges, get stored in the body. And as we recognize, and as you stated earlier, if they are not dealt with, can cause illnesses and diseases, and even somatic challenges, because sometimes it's not you're having a pain that you can't figure out, and despite the tests and scans and things that you have done, they can't figure out what the problem is. Maybe it's associated
mind and body
with
connection.
Yes. Could it possibly be some stored grief that's being real? And as I was speaking with a group last night, and I said to them, when we don't deal with our challenges, the stress sometimes caused by the grief and loss and all of that, we can experience terminal illnesses because it can manifest in our bodies in an area where there might be repressed or suppressed cancer cells. Then all of a sudden, you're hearing that you have a diagnosis of cancer.
Let me tell you something. My dad, probably about 4 years ago. Yes, it's about 4 years ago. He got some news from a doctor
Mm-hmm.
who told him that his kidneys were operating at 30%,
Wow.
and he had to do a surgery. And listen, that thing just depressed him so much. He was so sad. He got so sick. He wasn't gonna live another week.
Oh my gosh.
And I asked him to just hold on, just hold on until tomorrow. I'll have somebody look at him.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent him to one of my naturopath friends, and he scanned him and stuff. And just giving him that positive outlook and hope
Mm-hmm.
changed like everything. My father went to work
Mm-hmm.
2 days after.
Wow.
So we're gonna take one quick break
Yes.
and be back.
Remember to call and interact with us, okay?
945-9029.
Good morning.
Are you looking for real talk on love, marriage, parenting, and relationships? Join us every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. for Family Matters, a brand new show on Praise 87.9 FM. Hosted by Dwayne Uter, alongside Dr. Cheyenne O'Connor, a licensed clinical psychologist and relationship expert. We'll tackle the real issues that families face. Straight talk, expert advice, and live call-ins. Got questions? We've got answers. Tune in and let's build stronger families together. Family Matters, this and every Thursday on Praise 87.9 FM.
Welcome back to Family Matters this morning. I was grieving because I didn't see Rhonda this morning.
Well, here I am.
but
Welcome,
Rhonda's
Rhonda Cornwall,
here. Welcome,
our
Rhonda.
grief counselor at
Yes.
the Institute for Essential Care.
Yes, Rhonda, you were here with us last week. and
Yes.
We decided that we couldn't go another week without you dealing with grief. This
Well,
morning we're talking about supporting grieving children. I'll give you my story. I gave you one story last week. I'll give you another story.
Okay. I love
Um,
stories.
Another experience. Some years ago, when Seth was very young, well, I didn't know how much I loved this boy
Mm.
until I saw him grieving. He loves toys. He loves action figures, small ones. He doesn't love big toys.
Okay.
And we went down to Northside Church one day. I went to do set up some equipment. And he thought he left his toy in the church.
Mm.
We were leaving. He said he left his toys. Hold on, Dad. And he ran back to the church. When he was running up the stairs, he missed his steps. And he fell right, like, the steps are.
Mhm.
His stomach was just right in that. And he looked around at me, and it was so hurting. He couldn't cry. He just looked at me. Well, I don't know if he couldn't cry. Probably that's the time I learned that he was shy to cry in public.
Yeah.
And he looked at me, and when I saw that
Pained
pain
expression.
expression, I was frozen.
Mm.
Like,
Wow.
I felt it so much, and until I gathered myself, went and grabbed him, only to find out his toy was in the car.
Mm.
But I guess the experience was for me to learn how to support him
Yes.
in that grieving moment, and I've never ever forgot that.
Wow.
I've never forgot when Seth hurt like that. I've never forgot when Shian broke her leg.
Mm.
Went to the hospital and was just crying. No doctor could touch her, and
Oh,
she was
man.
saying "Daddy," and I couldn't help her. I went to the bathroom and I cried.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Grieving, I
Yeah.
think grieving is very, very important, and supporting your children grieving
Yes.
is very. They see you as your heroes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think what you hear from what you're sharing as well is that that expression of grief can take so many different forms as well, right? It's a grieving, it's a father's grieving heart to see their child hurting, and so I think it's just recognizing that grief can show up in different ways, and it's not your just traditional. How we see it, right, is someone died and you were having an emotional response to it. It's I'm having an emotional response to life events.
Yes. And a grieving child doesn't necessarily have to be a child like a 6-year-old. It could be your child at 20.
An adult child.
Yes.
And it my mind, as you spoke about, that situation with Seth, just went back to God. And when Jesus was going through the process of dying for our sins, and the compassion and the grief that he must have gone through, so great, and that is how, as family members, male, female, we can model that compassion, that empathy, being there, that support, being that support system, and model that godlike characteristics. So it's so important for us to support our children, whether young or old, when they grieve.
How can parents though? I don't know if I did the right thing, but how from the experts, how can parents, caregivers, teachers, whoever support children who are grieving? How can they?
So we first have to identify what will it look like. How do we identify grief in children? And it's quite sometimes similar to how we grieve as adults, and sometimes it's a little bit different. So they can come across as being like 1 minute they're sad, and another minute they're playing with their friends and they seem to be okay. And so sometimes, because they are transitioning from one emotion to the next and in quick succession, we probably don't even realize that they are grieving. But it's important to recognize that loss will impact everyone in the family, and look out for it, be vigilant, and be there to support. It can be them crying and not wanting to stop. It can be them getting angry, very irritable. It can be them just shutting down and withdrawing, or it can be manifested in behavioral challenges. So it's different ways.
So I grew up in areas where you were taught to be tough.
Yes.
And so you really might be hurting, and you're crying, and they say, go sit down. Go sit around there, so with no level of
empathy, it would seem.
And I think that's something culturally, we have where we teach our boys and men to be strong, right? To not show emotions. But I think there's a place for, yes, we need to teach our men how to be men, or our boys how to be men, and be,
strong and resilient.
Yes. But I think it's also how we define strong as well, right? Because if we define strong as lacking emotional expression, right, then we will raise boys to be men who don't know how to communicate with their emotions, who don't know how to express their emotions or deal with their emotions. And when grief shows up, then we have a problem, right? We have men who don't know how to deal with it and may take maladaptive ways of coping, whether it's, alcohol, overworking, whatever, right? So I think allowing our boys to have moments where they, yes, if something hurts, you have the permission to express that, right? And again, I think it's just getting to know your child, and knowing, how to interact with them as well. Again, we can hear that you have that understanding of your children just by the response, right? One child might need to have the privacy to grieve. So it's important for parents to be able to, know their children and to recognize changes in their children as well. And I just want to also just speak to parents who are saying, okay, well, maybe I'm grieving myself, and it's hard for me to pay attention to the children and watch their every move to see how they're grieving. And that's a very real and true, concern. So I think that's where this whole thing about modeling, your grief coping can be helpful to your children as well. So for instance, if a parent is feeling sad, they can let their children know that, right? Like, mom is feeling sad, daddy's feeling sad right now because, I miss so and so. And that tells the child that, you know what, it's okay for me, one, to feel sad, and two, for me to express that, right? It's okay for me to miss my loved one or whatever it is that I'm grieving.
Absolutely. And if I could just add to what you've just said, Rhonda, giving permission to express their emotions, especially our boys and men. Because what we find is that when we suppress, and we alluded to this earlier, Dwayne, it doesn't just manifest itself in illnesses and maybe even worse mental health challenges, but it can lead to emotional numbness. And of course the anxiety and depression, and we know that those are twins that generally walk together, the anxiety and depression, and it can even get worse.
I find that in terms of criminal acts these days, it has gotten more heinous. Like, it's just more heartless, and if you should check the background of some of these guys who commit these murders or whatever, they don't even show emotion. Like, it's just another thing. And I'm sure that it's quite likely that their roots, they were taught to be tough, and they didn't experience care or empathy. They didn't grow in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
It's possible, yes, that is the situation. They could be having some mental health challenges as well.
Yes.
There are so many factors, but as we're speaking to grief, it could have been born out of some loss that they suffered, and they have not dealt with that grief. And so it can come across as, well, nobody cares about me, so I don't care about anybody. I'll just do whatever I feel like.
I know that you mentioned that. What are some of the things that parents shouldn't say?
And we just dealt with one.
Yes.
Don't cry, be strong.
Yeah, exactly.
Never ever verbalize that to our children.
Because crying is not necessarily weakness.
No, crying is not a source of weakness or a sign of weakness.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because when we block grief, when we don't allow grief to happen naturally, then we are causing them to suppress their emotion, and this interferes with the grieving process and can result in unresolved grief that can lead to physical illness, psychological illness that we spoke to earlier. So we never ever want to say that. What's another thing we're not going to say to our children? They're in a better place.
Oh, when someone died.
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe I'll want to join them in that better place.
Yes.
Why are they happy and I'm sad?
Yeah.
I want to go there.
So the solution to my grief is to
Join them. Maybe I need to kill myself.
take myself out.
Yes. Or walk into the path of an oncoming vehicle. I'm not doing it. I'm just positioning myself.
Yes, to be in a better place.
Yes, to be in a better place. And so it creates confusion, especially with our younger children who might not understand death. That is very mystical to them, and it can cause them to fear death as well and create an anxiety around it. They may suffer from fear of abandonment as a result of that. And this can also translate into future relationships. They may get clingy and not be able to understand why is it that the person who has died is in a better place, but I'm left here to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
I think also parents have to be cognizant too of, not, because oftentimes, especially younger children as well, can assume blame as well, right? They can think, okay, well, maybe I was the last person with X, Y, and Z before they died, so maybe it's my fault, right? And so we've got to be careful how we speak to children as well, that we're not kind of, communicating or reinforcing that thought with them, that, what, maybe it is your fault. So it's just being very, I think, mindful of the messages of what we speak and what the messages could be that could be received and interpreted
Internalized.
by by a young impressionable mind, right? Because again, depending on their age, children may not understand and may not have the the cognition to be able to understand what death is and the causes of death as well. So I think we have to be careful how we communicate. And again, like we were just saying before as well, just not using because we have all of these sort of metaphors that we like to use sometimes about death. And again, our goal, and I just want to speak to that, because again, we're not saying you're a bad parent if you do this and that, because we know the heart of parents is to comfort their children and to be there in a way that's not causing more hurt. But again, using the word died and death, and those aren't morbid things to communicate to our children, but are very based in reality, and it's helping them to grasp what's going on, what has happened,
Yes.
And have a better understanding of it moving forward, right?
And I just want to say too that sometimes we do the opposite. We just don't talk about it.
Exactly.
And that in and of itself is quite
Yes.
damaging.
Yes.
We need to express, because if we don't talk about it, then the child or children, they're going to just fill in the blanks. They're
Yeah.
going to learn from peers and inaccurately too what it is that has happened. So we want, and as Rhonda says, sometimes they allude that it's their fault because we have not set the stage for a discussion to express what has happened. So they self-blame. They can have irrational fears because we don't talk about it. Oh, this is bad. We are not to talk about it. But when we do speak about it, what we have allowed them to do is to accept that loss is a part of life. Grief is a natural part of life. And so it is safe to talk about. It's a safe topic. It's not taboo. It's not stigmatized. And it allows them to recognize and be expressive with their emotions, not just for now, but for the future. When we don't talk about it, it can make the children feel as if they're alone in their grief.
Exactly. Isolation.
Yes, they feel isolation. They feel emotionally abandoned. And they feel as if, nobody understands them. And you never ever want a child to come away from any situation feeling misunderstood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think this is where the dangers of them turning to dangerous ways of coping,
Maladaptive behavior
begin to happen, because there's no outlet, there's no safe, healthy outlet for that emotion. They're feeling it, they may not have the words to express it, but they also don't feel safe to share it with the people closest to them, right? And so they're looking for ways to cope and to numb this pain that they're having, but don't have any healthy outlets for it.
or any positive model to follow.
Yeah, exactly.
Because maybe I am not dealing with it well either.
Yes.
So, and that's when you can find that they will self-harm
Yeah.
and do substance abuse.
There are persons who get angry when certain loss happens. I remember a couple of weeks ago, or probably last week, a caller called and said, how does she deals with the anger that she feels about a loved one who died, and when she associated with wrong choices, right? But how we express that anger in front of the kids also can affect the child.
And sometimes that this is one of the ways when we know we need support, when we just can't let go of that anger, that is one of the ways we know we need support. So get the help, get professional help. The second thing is, we are human and we will get upset. We will express the anger in appropriate ways and in inappropriate places. It's good to just go back and apologize. And those who were offended, you need to make peace with them. And when we do that, our children will recognize that we are not perfect. We make mistakes and we don't do the right things all the time. And so it's normal. You normalize it and you let them know the right way to fix it. How do we go about moving forward? The anger, it's a natural part of the grieving process. So we want to understand that as well. But we also want to be able to cope better. Don't just stay stuck in that place. How do we move forward? What are the social support that we have in place that can support us, especially when the entire family is impacted and the children are going through, the parents are going through the grief as well. You want to have that social support. It could be other family members, it could be friends, co-workers, your church family who step in to help you navigate that grief. Doing things, not just saying that you're going to pray for me, not just giving me a text of an encouraging text or so, but physically being there, sitting silently beside me, draping your arm over my shoulder, just letting me know I'm not alone. And the children also can benefit from that. Coming in, sometimes the grief is so crippling that I can't even clean my house. Can somebody come and help me with my household chores and ensuring that the children get to school and everything runs in an orderly fashion? Sometimes you really need that physical, tangible support.
And I think just to add to that too, you mentioned, Sophia, that the anger itself is an emotion. It's a natural emotion, right? And I always say to people, when we have emotions, let's get curious. What is this emotion trying to tell me? There's a reason why you feel angry. And so instead of trying to get rid of the anger and dismissing the anger, let's just understand it. Again, it's the circumstances, right? Okay, so we acknowledge that this anger exists because something happened that makes us feel that way. And so I think sometimes the best way to deal with something is to acknowledge it.
Yes,
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that the caller last week gave us a good example to work with.
Yes.
So she recognized that she was angry. She named the emotion. We have to name it to tame it. And she also recognized why she was angry. She was angry because she thought that the person didn't make good life choices. And possibly the bad choices that were made led to an untimely death. And so, that's the second part of it. You become self-aware. And so what is the next step? Do you need to now be at peace with that, make peace with that, because that is something outside of your control. And so when we recognize that something is outside of our control, we have to find a way to let it go. And if you still recognize that and you still feel stuck, then that is a sign that you need professional support to work through it. And it may enlist the support of other family members who can help us get past these hurts.
It's now 8:30 in the morning. We're up on a break. Let me just remind our callers or listeners, the number to call is 945-9029. That's 945-9029. We take a break and we're back right here on Family Matters.
Want to raise emotionally strong children? At the Institute for Essential Care, our Emotional Intelligence Camp helps kids build confidence, resilience, and self-awareness. Does your child struggle with social skills? The Peer Social Skills Program supports children, teens, and young adults with ADHD, mood disorders, learning disabilities, or autism spectrum disorder, helping them thrive in social settings. Call us today at 1-345-325-8255 877-555-7556. Email us at tifecscheduling@gmail.com. Visit us online at www.caymanessentialcare.com.
How great the chasm.
Living in the last days, we need hope. Our world is bombarded by crisis after crisis. This is why the Kings and the Ephesus churches present Hope for the Crisis Evangelistic Series. Starting on the 1st of June and continues to the 21st, join us nightly from Sunday to Wednesday and on Friday at 7:15 p.m. and on Saturday, Sabbath at 9:30 a.m. Held at the King's Seventh-day Adventist Church, our speaker will be Evangelist Pastor Vaughn Henry with co-evangelist Pastor Kevin Danvers. Do you want to be more hopeful? Then join us. You don't want to miss it. There'll be lots of surprises and gifts. Come, enjoy fellowship with the sustainer of all hope. See you on the 1st of June.
Could imagine so great a mercy. What heart could.
When your daughters start to face those challenging moments in life and need that extra bit of protection, give them Curves sanitary napkins. Curves are cotton soft, super absorbent, breathable, and have 4-wall protection to keep them feeling dry and fresh throughout the day. Curves sanitary napkins offer all-day comfort and protection when it matters most.
Grieving a loss or feeling overwhelmed? Feeling a sense of disharmony in your family or in your life? At the Institute for Essential Care, our grief counseling, family therapy, and mental health consultations offer compassionate support to help you heal and reconnect. Your peace, healing, and growth start here. Call us today at 1-345-325-7556. Email us at tifecscheduling@gmail.com. Visit us online at www.caymanessentialcare.com. Are you looking for real talk on love, marriage, parenting, and relationships? Join us every Thursday morning at 8 a.m. for Family Matters, a brand new show on Praise 87.9 FM. Hosted by Dwayne Uter, alongside Dr. Cheyenne O'Connor, a licensed clinical psychologist and relationship expert. We'll tackle the real issues that families face. Straight talk, expert advice, and live call-ins. Got questions? We've got answers. Tune in and let's build stronger families together. Family Matters, this and every Thursday on Praise 87.9 FM.
Welcome back to Family Matters. We're talking about supporting grieving children. I took a break. A real break.
You're allowed to.
So we spoke about things that we shouldn't say to children when they're grieving. We also spoke about how do parents and guardians, teachers, whoever, support a grieving child.
We want to look a little bit more on that. Yeah.
In a healthy way.
Right.
Yes. Well, go ahead.
All right. So we are answering the question. So we looked at what we're not supposed to do.
Yeah.
What we don't recommend.
Yeah.
What do we recommend?
Yes.
What do we do?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
I like that. I like that style of learning because I was always told you shouldn't do that.
Yes.
Yes, we need the other side of that coin now.
Yes.
Okay. So we want us teachers, parents, caregivers of all size and shape to be present and available. That's the first thing. So whatever way in which your child grieves, if they throw a tantrum, behave irrationally, withdraw, if they cry a lot, whatever the presentation, be present and available. And I know it is very difficult when we are grieving ourselves as parents, teachers, to be present and available. It doesn't mean that we are going to hover over the child or children. It's just having that conversation to let them know that whenever they feel that they need support, we are available. Right? Because they need space too, to be themselves, to express their grief in the way that feels natural to them. And we need to give them permission to do that. Just being there to listen. Sometimes just giving a hug. And you know what I found very powerful? When we can't say the words because we are hurting too much, just sit and write a little note. And we have these nice papers, colorful, very attractive. Sometimes we can even put a little smell on them, or they come scented. And just sharing that with the child or children lets them know how much they mean to us, that we take the time to do this. And when you can't be present physically, emotionally, they'll have that note.
And even if they don't have the note in their hand,
or a phone text,
it's going to be in their head.
Yes.
Yeah.
I got a note from my dad when I was young. Not one of those nice notes.
Okay.
And I still it has kept me in line all these years.
Okay.
Well, and I want to just jump in there just to quickly say also, because I think you've touched on something there, right? I think using the love language of your child as well, knowing how your child receives love, and using that mode of expressing that support can be so powerful, because if I know that physical touch is important to my child, then giving them a hug a day might be just what they need, right? Or if they need, acts of kindness or whatever, but just, and it doesn't have to be these huge things too, right? It could be very simple things that it doesn't take a lot of our energy to do, but it's meaningful to the child because we're speaking in a way that they can receive that love and support.
Well, I see we're mushrooming into another topic for next week or the other week. We're learning our children's love language.
Okay.
That's very important.
Yes. And keeping a routine, Rhonda.
Yes, absolutely.
What do you think about that?
Yes, it is so important for children to have that stability, right? Especially when emotionally they may be feeling unstable, keeping the routine that they're used to, not disrupting that as much as possible, can really help to give them that foundation, right? That okay, things aren't gone awry kind of thing, but giving them that routine, and that works for the school, for the teachers in their classrooms as well, right? Just making sure that that as much as possible what they're used to